what seems to be a week of taxes. The latest tax, or the latest proposal for a tax, is as leading psychologist Kelly Brownell calling for government to take responsibility in combating obesity and slugging corporations such as Coca-Cola and Pepsi with soft drink tax. What's your take on this?
Look, it's very interesting that Australia is very different from America, where that particular researcher comes from. In Australia, the amount of sugar that Australians have consumed has decreased by 20% since the 1970s, at a time when obesity has doubled. So we've seen there doesn't seem to be a connection between sugar and obesity. Also, of course, in Australia, we have a 10% tax on Also in Australia, of course, we already have a 10% tax on soft drinks, sugar-based beverages called the GST, which of course isn't on fresh produce. Since that tax was brought in the year 2000, quite seriously, there has been no change in obesity levels. In fact, obesity levels have tracked up a bit.
He says that he describes soft drinks, even the lower ones with lower sugar count, as empty calories, and as something that should seriously be not consumed in order to fight obesity. What's your...
Well, again, in Australia, we see a situation where the sugar consumption of Australians has decreased by 20% since the 1970s. Obesity has doubled. So it shows that there's certainly no direct correlation between sugar in our diets and obesity levels. The fact is, obesity is much more complicated than that. If we eat more calories than we expend in energy, we put on weight, whether those calories come from sugar, fat, or other sources.
Soft drink tax is just one of his proposals. He also talks about how government and corporations need to do more to tackle obesity. Do you think that corporations should take better responsibility?
There's no doubt that the food industry is part of the solution, and we're working closely with government on that, going through an approach to reformulate a number of products in line, in cooperation with government, reducing saturated fats in products, changing portion sizes, and of course stopping advertising high fat, high sugar, high salt products to children. So yes, the food industry is very much part of the solution, along with individuals, communities and the government. Together we can make a difference in this space.
But something like Denmark's saturated fat tax is something that you would reject?
Look, taxes on food hit people on low incomes at a greater rate, or at a higher percentage than people on higher incomes. They're simply regressive. They're a good way to raise money, they're good taxes, they raise a lot of money, but they don't anywhere in the world affect obesity rates. So unless the federal government is interested in increasing taxes on people who can't afford it, I think these sort of taxes should be put out of the equation.
Coming back to Kelly Brownell's proposals, you're saying that because he's an American researcher, his arguments aren't applicable in Australia?
His comments about soft drink consumption aren't really relevant in Australia. In Australia, we're seeing a reduction in the amount of sugar Australians are consuming, and quite a significant reduction, about a 20% reduction since the 1970s, at a time when obesity rates have doubled